That's the way we'll be coming up. But first, I want to kind of go over how we got to where we were at in Chesapeake. Dave's up here because he was my assistant for the whole week, so he's just helping me out. You'll see in a minute he played the part of Billy Wayne all week. So, didn't you, Dave? Yes. Okay, so planning this trip, usually you plan it almost a year in advance because these slots get filled up very quickly for World Changers from previous years with the churches. So come February when Brother David left, we had not decided on if we were going to camp, if we were going to do a mission trip or whatever. So when he left, we decided to try out World Changers. So since we were so late starting the process, there were only 3 places available for the weeks that we needed to go because of ball camps and band camps and various things. And one of them was North Carolina, one was Jersey Shores, New Jersey, and one was Chesapeake. We wanted the kids to kind of get out of their cultural environment, so that kind of knocked the North Carolina out because it was a place kind of like Dunlap. And a lot of the kids, this was their first mission trip, so going to New Jersey was kind of a little scary to take them for their first time. Yeah. And so we kind of settled on Chesapeake, that's north and a little bit further away from where we're usually at. So we decided to go there. And while I was building this itinerary, I went ahead and built in that we would leave the day prior because this is a long trip. I mean, it was like 10 and a half hours of just driving time, not counting stops. And you know how you have to stop with various people, Shayla and Brindley. And so I thought, well, it'll be an all-day thing. We had planned to go to Liberty, spend some time there, let the kids look around on campus. I had this whole thing, I mean, down to the rest stop, timed, everything. And we get to the first rest stop, and we're 15 minutes early leaving. I'm like, yeah. And we pull out, I don't know if you've ever been on 40 and 81 where it kind of splits. So when you pull out of that rest area, you got to get all the way over, or you're going to get run over to get on 81. So I said, okay, y'all, I'm leading. I said, when we get out here, we got to gun it, go all the way across. And here I gun it, here Debbie guns it, and then they hit the bus, big bus, and it just, it didn't go anywhere. So we pull off at the first exit on 81, and it's dead. So we finally find a place to pull in at AutoZone, and all the rental places are shut down. It's Sunday. Nobody has vans big enough for us, so we're sitting at a Sonic, and it's hot, and we've got 30 of us there, and we're trying to brainstorm what we're going to do. So we just start calling, and people are in church at First Baptist and at Chapel Hill, but we're ringing their phones. We're like, we need a van, we need a van. And both of them, if you see them, just tell them thank you, because they both said that we could have anything we needed. First Baptist was the first one to zip back and say, okay, you can have our van. So as the vans were coming up, we took everybody we could in the 2 other vans, and we headed to Chesapeake, and we had 6 boys and Mr. Andrew that sat for hours in the sun, for hours. And so they didn't get to our hotel till 2:30 in the morning. So all the girls and the rest of us that went are very appreciative of those guys that did that. During the months before going on our trip, John took over as youth pastor, and this was the main thing I handed to him because I was like, you can take this and run, and he did. He took it and ran, and all of these youth were required to do a month-long Bible study with him, and they did, and they got prepared to go, and a lot of them were nervous, but we tried to calm their fears. And so that Monday morning, we're up early. We go to the beach. We give them a couple hours at the beach to play around, and then we go sign in. And as we sign in, we're at this middle school, and they put us we have 20 crews. So they divide us all up. And that was another thing they're nervous about. They're going to meet new people. Were they going to be with anybody from our church? So as you'll see, they did get people from our church. And this goes into my personal part of the trip, so my 2 girls can come up here too. As many of you know, Thad and I are building our 4th house. So this trip, I was just going to go as a laborer. I did not want to be in charge. I didn't want to tell anybody what to do. I just wanted to stand there and somebody say, you do this. Yeeps. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that was us before we left, and that's us at the beach. Okay? And that's us arriving at Chesapeake right there. The top one is, they put us all, that's 160 kids plus all the leaders, and they put us on the football field and made this huge circle for prayer the first time. And my crew was called the Paint Chips. And again, you know, Thad and I are building this house, and I thought, John kept telling us that they need crew chiefs, they need crew chiefs. And I was like, no. And so come Friday before we left, he's like, they need crew chiefs. And he sent this application, and you have to fill it out, and you write 1 to 10 how you know how to do stuff. Well, I sandbagged it all. I was like, 2. You know, I thought, they're not going to pick me because they'll think she don't know how to do anything. She's a girl. And so Saturday evening, I get a call from the guy. Hey, you're crew chief. You just have to paint and tile. And I was like, good. That's something, you know, I'm really good at and I know how to do. And so we get up there, and I walk into my house, and I do the review on Monday night. And I said, okay, everything looks good. And then, Monday night. Tuesday morning, we get there. And so Andrew Stilts is also on my team. And I have Big Dave and Madison and Anna. And then we have 8 other people. Well, I go around before we prepare the floor for the tile, and Andrew hollers at me, and I go back in the bathroom, and right before you step on the commode, it was like stepping on a sponge. It just went, and I was like, oh my. So we rip it up, and that's what it looks like. I have to go all the way down to the floor joists. And I'm sitting there and I text that, and I said, I just don't think I can do this. I don't have Clayton here. I don't have my daddy here. I just can't do it. And Dad texted me back, and he said, you'll be fine. You got to fly on your own wings one day, and, you know, this is when you're going to do it. And so I did call Clayton several times. And Billy Wayne was there, too, but that was no help at all. But Big Dave, in the other picture, you can see where Big Dave played Billy Wayne the whole week. He had their overalls on. He had his hand, and he'd say, you missed a spot, didn't you?
Yep, you missed one.
Yep, you missed one the whole week. So that was his spot. He would take his naps. And
yep, and you get in trouble.
I got in trouble a lot, too. I got in timeout. So,
and grounded.
And grounded, yes. So in this house, we had to, that floor took me all week. I had to finally call in a plumber. I mean, I have brothers that are plumbers, but I can't do that. Finally had to call in a plumber. We replaced that floor. I had to replace the floor in the kitchen as well where it leaked. Then we had to tile it, and then we painted 3 rooms in my group. I had these 2 girls right here. I'm so proud of them because in each group you had to do devotion at lunch, and Anna volunteered to do devotion every day. Madison did the prayers. She also kept up with our journal about who you talked to. They were wonderful. Our homeowners had little small grandbabies that would come over, and they did great with them. I mean, this is a whole different area than where these kids have ever been in. I mean, the area that we was in, it was just mainly African-American families. That was it. That's all you saw. But Melinda could tell you about where we were at because she used to live there. And so it was totally different environment than these kids had ever been in. And they did wonderful. They relied on the Lord the whole time we were there. And when we'd have our crew chief meetings, every crew chief would tell me and John how great our kids were, how much they were ready and prepared physically, spiritually, how they were just so complimentary on our church, how we have helped our kids through everything. And one more thing is, this is how you know it's a God thing. We had 24 projects. We had 20 crew chiefs that had never met before in their life, never met before. And we had 260 youth laborers. We had, if you've ever tried to get a project together, I mean, you have to have the supplies there. You have to have all the materials. You have to have all the people meeting and leaders together, and everything every day go like this. And when we left on that Friday, 24 projects were completed. I'm not talking about little bitty projects. I'm talking about these kind of projects. Amen. So, I mean, we never met the guy that was over it. We just were there, and you tell them what you need, and then you just get on the phone and say, I need a skill skull, I need this and this and this, and it just would show up. Sometimes things didn't show up, and the kids could tell you, though, when things didn't show up. I know Brinley didn't mention this, but in her thing, because I read it, but hers, her material didn't show up, so they went on a prayer walk in their community. and they were walking, and they heard this kid yelling, and he was in a pond, ran his bike in a pond, was drowning, trying to get it out. So if they had their materials there, they wouldn't have went on the walk, the kid's still been in the pond. So, you know, and sometimes you get aggravated when things don't show up and things aren't the way you think they should be, but there's always a reason. So, and I just want to thank the church for financially sponsoring us, because there's so many churches that John and I talk to that have to fundraise all year long just to go on a mission trip. And we never, as long as I've been working in the youth, I've never had a problem with asking, hey, can we get this paid for? You're always there every time. I mean, you don't know how special that is when we go to somewhere and they're like, well, we can't go there because we don't have the money and we've got to fundraise and we got to do this. Your church pays for that. They just don't believe it. And, you know, we are so fortunate to have y'all backing us, the Sunday school classes that sponsor the kids. It is just unbelievable. So I'm going to turn it over to Big Dave if he's got something to say, and then Madison and Anna, and then we'll go down the line. You got something to say?
Everything is fine. I think it really seen I do dolphins in the ocean, but the water is cold.
Yeah. When we went to the beach, they thought they were in Florida, and all of them took off running into the water, and Big Dave included, and then they ran back out because it was cold. And he said he saw 3 dolphins.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
It's amazing, the whole lot.
Yes, it was good, wasn't it, buddy? Okay, you want to come over here?
Hi, my name is Madison. World Changers was my first mission trip. I was very, very excited to go, even months before we were set to leave. But as some of you might know, I recently tore my ACL at a high school summer basketball camp at Belmont University. When this happened, I was heartbroken, not only that I would most likely miss my whole freshman season, but also that I would miss the missions trip I'd been looking forward to all summer. Luckily, I got into therapy as soon as possible and recovered enough to be physically capable of going. For me, the fact that I almost didn't get to go to World Changers made me more thankful and excited for the opportunity that I had. When we finally got to Virginia after a 10-hour drive, I found out I would be on a crew with Tammy, Anna, Big Dave, and Mr. Andrew. Our crew name was the Paint Chips, and we had crew members that lived as far as Michigan and North Carolina. I loved getting to know our team and becoming close friends. My favorite part of the missions trip was meeting our homeowners on the site we were working on. Our homeowners' names were Miss Linda and Mr. David. It was exciting to meet them along with 3 of their 8 grandchildren. Their grandchildren were a 4-year-old boy named Davion, a 9-year-old girl named Shemaiah, and a 10-year-old girl named Denasia. I am so thankful that I got the chance to go to Chesapeake and learn how to share the gospel by serving others. World Changers got me out of my comfort zone, made me bolder in my faith, and brought me closer to God. And lastly, it taught me about God's limitless power, glory, and most importantly, his limitless love. Ephesians 3:18 says, "And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have the power to grasp how wide, long, high, and deep Christ's love is."
Hi, I'm Anna Kibble. I was blessed enough to get to go to Chesapeake, Virginia this year for World Changers. I made a lot of amazing friends and memories I will never forget. I did a lot of things that were out of my comfort zone, like doing daily devotion for my crew and going on the mission trip, especially since it was out of state. My crew was called the Paint Chips. My homeowners were Miss Linda and Mr. David. They had 3 grandchildren, Denasia, Shemaiah, and little Davion, which were a blessing to talk to and hang out with. On my crew, I was lucky enough to have Miss Tammy, Maddie, Mr. Andrew, and Big Dave. On our crew, we painted 3 rooms, retiled some of the house, and had to fix some water damage. But not only did we do physical work, but we did spiritual work as well. During the week, I learned that not only do we need to strive to be better Christians, but we also need to get involved with other Christians and other people around the world. So even though I may have broken a broom and the bus broke down, I had an amazing time. So I just wanted to thank the church and all the leaders who made it a great trip. Thank you.
Me and Sienna were on the dumpsters. I'm Will Hills. Me and Sienna were on the dumpsters. Our crew chief was Alex and Heather. We worked on Miss Lynn Ellen's house. Well, her deck. There were a bunch of boards that were rotting and falling. A lot of it was falling apart. We replaced a lot of the boards. We fixed a bunch of the rails and pressure washed it. We went on daily prayer walks if we could, especially when we didn't have the material we needed. What else did we do? We mowed her yard and mowed the neighbor's yard. We did a lot of stuff in the yard. I was really excited to get to go to Virginia just because I went to Kentucky Changers last year, and I knew how God had worked through my life and with Kentucky, and I was ready to become closer to God through World Changers in Virginia this time. So we got up there, and I was like, yeah, I'm a really enthusiastic person, so I'm wild all the time. And you might not know it, but I'm like, I don't really like going up and talking to people that I don't really know. And I wanted God to help me jump that fence and be able to just walk up to anybody and ask them how their day was going and if they go to church anywhere and how the relationship with God was. And through the messages that the pastor that was there that week, through the messages of God's limitless power and His love and His, it's amazing to think how great He is. But that helped me realize that I don't have to be scared to run up and talk to someone because Jesus carried that cross down the road for us. Our crew was like a family. You can ask Sienna. It was like last year when I was at Kentucky, it took us probably 2 days to really get close. This was like as soon as we met, we were already cracking jokes about each other, just messing around, and we got really close as the week grew longer, like a family. I just want to thank y'all for the opportunity to go with the church group. It was a great experience. Thank you.
As you may know, I'm Sienna. My week up at Virginia was super fun. We were all like a family. I got a nickname up there, Sassy, because that's my attitude. Like, we were super close. Like, my crew leader even put me in a headlock. I met a lot of new friends and did new things, and also got as I said, got a nickname. One of the messages that really stuck with me was God's limitless love and how much He cares for us and loves us. On my crew, our homeowner was surprised that a bunch of strangers could work together so well and act like we already knew each other when we really didn't. It gave her so much joy and hope. When I talked to her, she was super surprised about how we didn't know each other, but we all like worked together so well and like how we just clicked. And I made so many memories and friendships that I'll never forget. And yeah.
We were part of the Brick Bats, and we did some home repair for a lady. We didn't work as hard as Tammy and them did, but we did work, and the kids were awesome. The fellowship where they grew closer together was awesome, and where they talk about God's limitless love, His limitless knowledge, His limitless power, and His limitless invitation to the kids was just awesome. And our shirt, Ephesians 3:20 says, he's able to do exceedingly abundantly above what we can think or ask. So one day we were done with our project, and we went to Krispy Kreme Donuts. Tamer told me I had to tell this one, so it's a donut day for the Kearns family, okay? But we went to Krispy Kreme, and we were waiting in line. Everybody got their donuts, and they said, "Kid, here, this belongs to somebody in your crew." They knew we were Christians. They knew where we were from. And I took it out to one on my crew, and she said, "That's not mine. I ordered it, and then I canceled it." And I said, "Well, so I took it to her, and I said, "You can either take this and pay for it or take it as a free donut." So she grabbed it, and I said, "I'm going back in to pay for it." So as I went back in to pay for it, the man handed me another one. He said, "Take this. Here's your another one. Go with it." And I thought, "Lord, how can I use that?" Then I got to thinking, God's limitless what? His power, His knowledge, His abundance, and all that He gives us. I took the extra donut there that she got, the one she didn't pay for, and I got another free one. And I said, "Look at this. This is above what we could expect. I didn't go in for this, but God graciously gave just a little bit more than I had expected." And the whole week was an abundant blessing for me to spend with these kids, because I got to spend a lot of time with kids that I've not spent much time with, and I appreciate you all, and I appreciate the effort that the church gave us, the opportunity that we were given to go. So I loved it. I enjoyed it. And I appreciate you all, young people. Y'all had a terrific testimony to us.
My name is Mackenzie Land, and this was my first mission trip, and I was super nervous. God has changed me by taking me out of my comfort zone and showing me that I need to put my trust and faith in Him. During the week, my crew worked on a home and landscaped a middle school. I was on the Brick Bats crew with Trace and Miss Brenda. We repainted their kitchen, repainted their porches, and fixed the bricks on their stairs. Mr. and Mrs. Debo were already Christians, but by sharing the word with them, I could see their faith being renewed. The theme for the week was limitless. Ephesians 3:14 through 21 shows how God's love is truly limitless. One example is Ephesians 3:17 through 18, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, and I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have the power to grasp how wide, long, and high and deep the love of Christ is. I would like to thank the church and my parents for allowing me to go and experience God's work in a new way. I would also like to thank everyone who has prayed for me through this time. I truly enjoyed this experience.
Hello, my name is Trace Culver. This is my second time going on a mission trip. I was on the same crew with Miss Brenda and Mackenzie Land, and I'd like to thank the church for this opportunity, because not only did we help improve somebody's home life and renew their faith in Christ, I got to be close to somebody I really didn't talk to in the youth group. I went on this mission trip wanting to help and serve and change the community, but I really didn't want to change anything with my relationship with God, because being a teenager, I thought I had everything sorted out. I realized I was very wrong at the time, because during one of the services, it was brought to my attention that I didn't have the desirable relationship with the Lord that I wanted to. I was treating Him like basically a genie in the sky, asking Him for stuff that only I wanted, and I didn't ask for the stuff that He wanted me to do. And the scripture that really brought that to my attention is Ephesians 4:18 through 19. That's the first time I really finally understood just how limitless God was and how gracious He was by sending His Son to die for me. So I made a vow that night to ask God what He wants to do with me and how He wants to use me in my life to help spread His love towards everybody I know. That's all I really have to say.
Hello, my name is Gerald Aquino, and as the first time going to a mission trip, I thought it was very amazing, and I like the opportunity to go to more mission trips. I mean, it was really amazing. You get to see joy and happiness throughout work and helping people that don't get to be able to probably do much, or they can't get that help at the time. as like how I would have to deal with home life kind of stuff. And going there and seeing how things were for Javier, which was the son of one of the kids that, there was 2 of the kids that was there, but he is older and had his own house and wife, so. And they would visit, and when we first had to hear the name Danny Sanders as a group, I was thinking, okay, we're gonna be sanding or something, but I was like, I've never really done much of this, but I mean, you know. Instead, we were taking vines and things and taking it off, and then after we got done doing that, we repainted her porch, and when we did that, they were looking at the steps and stuff, and we rebuilt the steps and the rails for them, and as well as throughout the week that we had to get, anyways, my bad, I lost my train of thought. When we were having our services, something that really spoke to me was Ephesians 3:16 and 17, that he would grant you according to the riches of his glory to be strengthened with might through his spirit in inner man, that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you being rooted and grounded in love. When I read that, I was thinking, wow, he is just limitless in love and through everything. He has limitless power. He's just limitless. And as we also got to meet some, as we were with our crews, one of the people that I was with that was from Triad Journey Baptist, his kid's name was Anderson, and he was a great friend, and I really liked how, and at his age, I mean, I think he's the same age as me, so 15, but I mean, he's like Trace, he's really smart and everything, but you know, nothing against you, Trace, you're really smart though. But honestly, I don't know fully about the Bible, but Trace and Anderson did, they were able to just keep going, and I was thinking, wow, it's amazing faith, and they have a good testimony that they could bring. And as we were going through, I was also thinking about the vines that how to rip down. I was thinking, the vines are like sin. We always are caged up with all that sin. We have baggage, and we don't want to get rid of it because it's fun for that moment, but in the end, it really does only satisfy you. It doesn't satisfy everyone else. And that really spoke to me. And I really liked this opportunity, and thanks. And I would really like to go on another mission trip again, so.
Hi, my name is Addie Culver, and this is my first mission trip. Before I came to World Changers, I was nervous and scared. I had no clue what to expect. I even searched up the crime rate. That didn't help because Chesapeake's crime rate was only 2% lower than the nation's total crime rate. Once I showed up at World Changers, I was even more nervous than I was before I got there. Then I realized everyone there was as nervous as me or even more nervous. God was working in us throughout the week on those homeowners and showing them God's plan. Now, after World Changers is over, God has helped me realize anything that happens is a part of his plan. When I was on the work site, the homeowner asked me if we had to pay to come. I told her we did, and she said, "So you paid to come work?" I told her, "We didn't just come to work, we came to share God's limitless love, just like Ephesians 3:8b says, to grasp how wide and long and deep is the love of Christ." That verse shows how limitless God's love is. Everyone at World Changers was amazing, but one person named Trevor stuck out to me. He always seemed happy. Once Trevor and I started talking, he told me he didn't have any social media because it was distracting him from God. I thought that was very cool. And I'm very grateful the church sponsored this trip, and I got to meet all these amazing people. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brinley Miller, and I was on the Hammerheads crew. I was very nervous about World Changers because I had never been on a trip like this before. On my crew, we fixed a hole in the porch, painted it, and put in some new windows. I thought it was a great experience, but it was definitely out of my comfort zone. I liked having the opportunity to go on prayer walks, and I think this trip grew me closer in my faith. I would like to thank the church and my family for allowing me to go. Thank you.
We were on the sheetrockers, and these girls hid behind me more than once that week we were there. And again, they said, "You go, you go." My job on the trip was to be the encourager. Before we left, I was kind of back and forth whether or not I was going to get to go. An obligation came up with work, and finally I just said, "I'm going." I wanted the opportunity to go and love on these kids some more, and I had been praying before I left, and I was asking the Lord to put someone in my path that I could use what I do at the center while I was there in Chesapeake. And so I was kind of focused. If you've been with Clayton and the guys when they come and work, and they work at the center a lot, you see they're very professional. They do things the right way. They've got the supplies. They're ready to go. My husband's also a perfectionist, so I'm just used to that. So on our job site, we were one of the sites that supplies weren't showing up. And we were just trying to get anything done, and sometimes I felt like we're not doing this the right way. Many times in my head I thought Doug and Clayton would just die if they saw this. But I was focusing on that, and my job was the encourager. And I had to step back at some point because we were working on the back side of the house, so we weren't out in the neighborhood. We weren't really seen. And I had to step back, and some of the kids were complaining a little bit as well. And so we did take a prayer walk one day, and we did do a few different things. And it was really neat to see how these kids just started melting together and getting to know one another. And you would have thought they'd have known each other forever. But there was one young lady on the trip that shared with us, and I don't think she would have had we not been waiting on supplies, that 3 months earlier she had been raped by a family member. And so she talked with us about that, and later on I got to talk with her again. And so that's not what I was expecting to come my way. I don't deal with that a whole lot at the center, but I was able to use training that I had received and different knowledge that I had from the center to speak with her and to love on her as well. But these two girls I was extremely proud of. I think this is the first time that either of them have done anything like this. They volunteered, well, with a little help. Since I knew their names right away, when they asked for something, I'd say, "Grace, Sid, you can do that." But they volunteered, without much of prompting at all, to be the recorder, which meant they kept up with how many people we talked to, how many times we shared the gospel, and different things like that. They both volunteered to pray at lunch and at devotions and things like that. And so I was really proud of them and the job that they did while they were there as well.
Hi, my name is Grace. When I heard about the mission trip, I was excited but nervous, and the way I was approaching it was I thought we were going to work and go to church every night, but I was very nervous about the neighborhood and the people in it. Before this mission trip, I loved the Lord, but I still had a fear of death. Through the mission trip, I realized that was silly. As Sydney always says, if the Lord wanted you to die, you will, and you can't stop him. Through the week, I had a great time meeting new people, helping people, and most of all, serving the Lord. One funny story this week to me was on Wednesday, we were coming out of the church, we were eating lunch out, and I see this lady get into her car and leave. So I thought, there's someone leaving. So I was thinking, well, heck, this is the first person I've seen all week, and the week is already halfway over. So I tell Miss Debbie, look, there's a person. Before she could even say anything back, I had thrown my stuff at Sydney and started sprinting towards her house. You could imagine how she felt about that. So when I got over there, hold on. Now Miss Debbie told me that there might be someone inside the house. So when she got over there, I rang the doorbell and the woman looked out the window. Then she didn't open the door, so I rang it again. Again, nobody answered for about a minute, but I heard mumbling, so I thought, oh no, I'm about to get shot. So me and Sydney go running to Miss Debbie and hid behind her before she was about to open the door. She wasn't too thrilled about that. Then finally someone opened the door. It was an older lady than what looked through the window. We talked to her and invited her to come to dinner and service, and although she didn't show up, I felt accomplished. There was this one kid in my group, and he made fun of me, Sydney, and these two other girls. He called us engines. He named us engine 1, 2, 3, and 4. I said, why do you call us engine? He says, because you always seem to break down. As Ephesians 3:7 says, I became a servant of this gospel by the gift of God's grace given me through the working of his power. Thank you for all letting me be a part of this mission trip. I loved every single part of it.
My name is Sydney, and according to that kid, I am engine 2. So, this was my first mission trip to World Changers, and I was pretty nervous because I knew I wouldn't be working with all of my friends, and I was definitely getting out of my comfort zone. But as soon as we got there, I realized that I had nothing to worry about, and that all of those worries in my head were just the devil trying to get to me. So I was on the sheetrockers crew with Grace and Miss Debbie, and we got to repair an elderly couple's home. The man, Mr. Eason, would always come out and check on us. He would even join our devotion, but his wife was shy and wouldn't come out. So we prayed all week, and on the last day, she came out and listened to our devotion and told us how grateful she was for the work we had done. She even gave us thank you cards and candy. So throughout the week, we had a bit of a lack of supplies, but that was a part of God's plan because we got to pray with some people and hand out a few tracts. And we also got to talk to the girl that got raped during our downtime. And if it hadn't have been for that, we wouldn't have got to talk to our crew and get close together like we did. It was great being able to work with people that were as passionate about Christ as I am, and I definitely made friends that I will never forget. And the messages for the week were about God's limitless love, power, and glory. And we studied Ephesians 3:14 through 21. The verse that stuck out the most to me was verse 20, and it says, Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. Like that verse says, God's limitless power is definitely at work in us that week. So I just want to thank the church for giving us this amazing opportunity to serve the Lord and the people of Chesapeake. And I want to thank all the leaders that took us. This was definitely a trip I will never forget because not only did I gain friendships, I gained knowledge in Christ and confidence to share his word. Thank you.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Was that loud? Hi, my name is Courtney, and I was one of the youth that got to go on the World Changers trip. This was my very first mission trip, and I was freaking out. I was really nervous about my group and other stuff I shouldn't be worried about. But when I got to World Changers, I realized that I really had no reason to be nervous because I ended up having an awesome group and I met some great people. You could tell God was really just working in everyone by sharing God's limitless love to our homeowners and the community. In Colossians 3:23, it says, Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Even though we were working for our homeowners, we were also doing the work for God. God really changed my life by getting me out of my comfort zone. When the last day came, I was really sad. I didn't want to leave, but we had to. I am really glad that we went on this mission trip, and I really miss all the people I met. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allie, and before World Changers, I was pretty nervous. But once I got there and seen the impact I was putting on the lives of others, I knew there was a reason why God brought me there. I just wasn't sure why at the time, until we got to the homeowner's house on Tuesday. That's when I realized why God brought me there. The work site I was on, our supplies didn't get there very fast to work on the house. So while we waited on the supplies, we got to get to know the owners of the house, Miss Pat and Mr. Temple. Mr. Temple told us that he had lung cancer and that he just had gotten rid of a tumor. But a couple of days ago, I got a text from my crew encourager that the bone scan showed that he only has arthritis in his bones, not cancer. So that was a big praise. Now, Miss Pat told us that she was all good with God, but Mr. Temple told us that he believed in God, but that he didn't see any reason why he needed to get saved. Even though we didn't get through to Mr. Temple, I asked that you would continue to pray with me that he would change his mind. Even though this trip had its ups and downs, there was a verse that helped me when I doubted myself. The verse is Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ty Adams. First things first, I have a couple of things to say. Most of the people I met there were from North Carolina. I did meet one kid from Texas, though. And we did meet some Filipinos. So, yeah, that was always fun. It was my first time to the beach. It was very salty. I didn't I did give Shannon Bird, our group encourager, I did give her my phone number. She wanted everyone's phone number. I never got a text. So, I got to text her back about that. At first, our group, all we were supposed to do was replace a few shingles, then go to a nearby church, paint a couple of walls, and then we were done. Go help another crew somewhere. But when we got there, our crew chief apparently didn't know about the job because we got there, the roof was flat, so all the water would just sit there. So it turned from replacing a couple of shingles to raising the entire roof. We never got to paint those walls. Especially since most of our supplies didn't get there till the last day. So, all the girls just sat on the porch most of the time. I was the oldest in the crew. There were 3 boys on the crew, and we all turned 18 that Monday.
Why?
Because we were all 16, and they're not supposed to have anyone younger than 18 on the roofs. So, they lost the paper. We had a kid named Chase on our crew who broke more things than we fixed. We put the tar on the roof, and then he threw the stick down, and it broke. I mean, the tip of the broom, the brush, had come off, so we put a screw in it to keep it there. When we got done putting the tar on, he threw it off the roof and it broke. And then the guy who would bring our supplies, what took us 5 people to do, took him 3 minutes to do alone. He comes up on the roof and says we did it wrong. So we had to tear up all the shingles that we had just put down. And then we had to put the tar back on. Brush is broken. So they give me, and since they don't have another brush, they just give me the tip of the handle and say, try not to get too messy. Got a couple of pants that I'm probably not going to wear at school. So the kid, Chase, not only did he break the brush, he also broke a gate, he broke a chair, he broke a saw. He was sawing a 2x4 and just, I don't know how it happened, but he just cut the cord. I don't know how. The cord was gone. 1 second it was going. 1 second it was going, and then it just stopped. We checked if it was plugged in. Couldn't figure out why. So good news is it was our crew chief saw. So didn't have to pay the church or school anything. He also lost a couple of pencils that we were using. Overall, it was a very interesting trip. Chase got a bunch of crabs in his shorts. Chase got a bunch of crabs in his shorts. Sorry, Chase. I'm sorry. Okay, apparently I'm done. So.
Hi, I'm Shayla. This was my first mission trip. And since it was my first, I was really nervous of change and something this far out of my comfort zone. I was on the Tool Timers crew with Jaden. We worked on Mr. Leonard and Miss Jean's house. We painted most of the time and did some yard work for them. Mr. Leonard was very social and stayed around us for most of the time, but not Miss Jean. I told all the girls to pray for our homeowner, that she would come around us more so we get the chance to talk to her. I'm not a talkative person until I feel comfortable around you, so this was going to be a challenge on my part too. The next day, she came out and ate lunch with us, and we talked with her for about an hour. Miss Jean told us that she was sorry for not coming out the first day. She was just shy. This was a week that we all had to step out of our comfort zones. For me and Miss Jean, it was getting out of our shy little bubbles and talking to each other. For the next 2 days, I seen my whole crew look past our differences and become closer. And I also seen that with our youth group. This trip has helped me gain more confidence so I can go out and be a better ambassador for God. I want to thank y'all for praying for us and for giving us the opportunity to go. I know that that week in Chesapeake, Virginia has changed all of our lives forever. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jaden Miller. I had never been on a mission trip before World Changers, so it was nothing like trips I'm used to, but it was a great experience. At World Changers, I was on the Tool Timers crew, and we painted a living room, bathroom, porch, and an awning. We also put up gutters and did some other work around the house. My favorite part about this trip was devotion time because the husband of the home would come out and tell us stories of what God had done in his life. It was just really amazing to hear those stories. What I learned on this trip is something as simple as painting a room or just sitting and talking with somebody can make their day and bring them so much happiness. It was a great experience, and I would like to thank my parents and the church for letting me go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ella. Before the trip, I was nervous and excited, but whenever we was there, I was just happy to be there with the people from around the United States. My home mom, Miss Geneva, has been fighting cancer for 16 years along with diabetes and does not get to see her grandchildren anymore. During work, I made friends day by day with my crew, and I loved working with them and using lots of tools like drill, chop saw, nails, hammers, and etc. And I loved doing destruction too, but whenever we was done working on her floor, we was proud of what we had done, and so was she. But all this stuff was to show our love of God, and that's what we did with her. Whenever we left for Tennessee, I felt more inspired to God. The people who preached about God is what led me to this feeling. And the verse that we learned is what popped out to me. It was Ephesians 3:20-21. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we were asked or imagined, according to his power that is at work within us, to him in big glory and church, and Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. And that's why I was glad to be in a World Changers in 2017.
Well, that was really funny, Ty. Thank you. That was awesome. So those are your World Changers, guys. I think they did a good job. What do you think? Why don't you give them a hand? Good job, guys. And I also want you to be lifting up the crew that went with us, the adults, the chaperones for that event. The shirt here says long days, sleepless nights, and a free t-shirt. You know, it was, you know, for Andrew, 5 hours sitting in the sun, you know, with 6 young men.
Hey, we took naps.
Yeah, okay.
We sweat a lot and took naps.
Yes, there you go. You know, but those guys came rolling in real late, and, you know, Andrew was just such a champ, you know, driving, you know, I think, 12 hours straight or something like that, and you know, Debbie and I driving the van and stuff like that, you know, our struggles. And then, you know, it was just great. We had a really good time. But make sure to thank the chaperones, man. We have such a great team here. All the volunteers here are just so awesome. So, you know, we're getting to the close here. I didn't think I would get a whole lot out of the trip, because I'd been on so many mission trips, and, you know, I just kind of like, okay, this is another one I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do, and then we'll be over with. And so I signed up to be a crew chief, and, you know, I was like, okay, I wonder what I'm gonna be doing. I could just do whatever. And prior to signing up and knowing what I was gonna do, I had been doing a lot of flooring back down at the ranch, and I'm talking like a ton of flooring, like over 2,000 square feet of flooring, of just putting in these the laminate flooring and rubber flooring and stuff like that. And I'd done it, and I'd asked God, I say, you know what, God, I'm a missionary. Why am I putting in flooring? Like, I need to go preach the word. You know, I need to do something like amazing right now. Why am I putting in flooring, God? I kept on asking God. I said, why are you making me do this? Like, why am I doing this? Why did you put this in my path right this moment? And Saturday night, as we were getting our assignments for what we were going to be doing, guess what my job assignment was out of the whole thing? Flooring. And not just any flooring. I walk into Miss Geneva's house. That's the lady we were working on. Someone had gone in there and done some flooring, but they didn't do any, they just kind of snapped it in there and then left it and just took off. And so, like, a quarter of her house had been floored, and the other house had not been touched, but, like, it had been started and no cuts were made. Someone had just snapped it in there. And I walked in and I was just like, oh, now I completely understand why God had me doing this. Because if I hadn't had the experience, if God had not allowed me to install all that flooring and had encountered all these different problems along the way and learning all these little new techniques, I would have never been able to do this project. Do you know how crazy that is? That is God right there. That is a God moment. He said, look, you're going to learn how to do this, and then you're going to be doing it for this lady that needs it so bad. And when we got done, it was amazing. It was amazing. The floors looked so good, and she was so happy and so relieved. You know, she wasn't stepping on the flooring that was coming up. It was, it was breaking off, and there was pieces missing. There hadn't been any trim. It was supposed to be 3 rooms. We ended up doing her like entire house, and it was just awesome. And we didn't have all the tools we need, but we made do. I had this little saw. It was just it wasn't a jigsaw. What's the other kind of saw that just kind of like vibrates really, really, really fast? No, it's not the Sawzall. It's the other one, the little bitty one that you can like sit there and go into like. It's like a Dremel tool, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm cutting laminate flooring with this little Dremel tool. It took me like 16 minutes to cut one piece. I'm just, the kids are just sitting there. It's smoking. My little hands are just shaking, and I'm just sitting there going, "All right, I'm doing this for Jesus." And so it was great. I mean, Eventually we got a jigsaw, and eventually we got a chop saw, and the kids all learned how to use it, and no one lost their fingers. Praise the Lord. And it was great. They all did great. We had a lot of cuts and mistakes, but it was great because they got to learn and they got to grow and they got to serve this lady, and then they got to see this finished project, and that her family would have a home that they could be, really, when they walk in, they can look at the floor and go, yes, this is what I wanted. This is what I was asking for. So Ephesians, we were in Ephesians 2021. The kids learned so much, and I learned so much as well, as far as, how our perspective of God is. There was just one really quick, I'll end right now with this, is that there was one video they showed, and it was basically how we can see God, and it was basically like this. Imagine yourself sitting on top of a skyscraper, looking out over New York, and how much you could see, and how beautiful that is. And you're like, wow, this is beautiful. Sometimes that's our perspective on how big God is. Well, just imagine then you jump into an airplane and you fly over New York. Well, you get to see everything. Wow. How much your perspective has grown at that point. How much bigger God actually really is. Well, they took it a step further. Imagine you're being an astronaut and you're shot up into outer space, and now you get to see the entire continent, and you're looking down on that, and how much your perspective has grown at that point. Well, that's our limitless God, is that we have this idea of who God is sometimes in our head. We have this idea of how powerful God just really is, but we really don't truly grasp and understand the limitlessness of who God really is and how powerful he is in our lives, and how amazing he is in everything, in every little detail. And so I walked away with that just going, wow, my perspective is just so finite. It's so small compared to just how great God is. And so the kids, we all had a really good time, and we just want to thank you guys so much for sending us out and taking good care of us. And I hope you guys can see that, what you guys have given has truly impacted not only our youth here, but it's impacted people all the way in Chesapeake, Virginia, and beyond. So we just thank you guys so much for your support and your love, and we wish you guys that you would join us on some adventures in the future, and we look forward to doing more and going further and farther and reaching people maybe in different countries, and then whatever that God would have us go and do. So we look forward to doing that with y'all. And so I'm going to go ahead and pray us out. Thank you guys once again. So why don't we go ahead and bow our heads and pray, and we'll let out. Thank you, Father God, so much for just allowing this group of youth and our leaders to be able to go out and be those hands and those feet, Father, to serve you and be that light on the hill, Lord. You're so good. And Father, forgive me because I sat there and I asked you, well, God, why am I doing this? Why did you put me to do this? But then I see now why. And I understand, and I thank you so much for the opportunity. I know every single person on that trip was thanking you for bringing them there, and thank you for bringing us back safely, most of all, Father. So we just lift your name up on high. We just praise your name right now. We just thank you for being that limitless God, that God that is so full of power, Father, that has no limit, and so full of love that has no limit. So we thank you for that, Jesus. We thank you for that. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray all these things. Amen.